Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, we're going to be learning finger-picking etude number 30, which is crazy to think that we've written 30 etudes now, and I gotta say it's a testament to the series itself. They're really, really fun to take one subject and to write a tune that is hopefully fun to play, which I hope you guys feel about this tune. I certainly think it is. I actually wrote this tune about a year ago and kind of just sat on it. I don't know why, but I found myself constantly playing it over these last 12 months. So I thought it was time to make a lesson out of it. Now, as you saw from the title above, this is an etude that's going to help you with hammer-ons, pull-offs. There's actually some slides in it as well, so if you want to work on that technique, we've got you covered. And as well as building speed. You know, this is a pretty quick paced or quick tempo tune. So if you want to work on any of those areas, this is going to be a great tune for doing that. Now, I think it goes without saying that it's going to be best suited for the upper intermediate to advanced player. So if you're a beginner player and you're looking for a finger picking etude for hammer-ons, pull-offs, check out this one. I'll also link it in the description box below. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this lesson, and then we're going to go ahead and just jump right into learning it. Now, in this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to play the entire song. But if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link right here, or you can go to the site, rockclass101.com, do a search for finger picking etude number 30. You could probably just type 30 in the search bar and you can find it that way much easier. Now, also on that page will be the on-screen interactive tab viewer. So this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you want, just a great asset in learning this tune that much easier. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into learning it. A couple things we need to talk about first. The big elephant in the room is, this is for low G. So make sure you grab your low G ukulele. Now the next thing I want to talk about is our right hand approach for finger picking. So throughout most of this tune, I'm going to be using a 3-finger approach. So that means thumb gets string 4, string 3, index finger gets string 2, middle finger gets string 1. You could also use a 4-finger approach. Each finger gets its own string. You can even do a hybrid where you jump between 3 and 4-finger approach. And then there's I think one spot where I'm using piccato picking, which is a fancy terminology that just means we're alternate picking, leading with the middle, following with the index. But we'll talk about that technique when we get to that section in the tune. So let's go ahead and kick into it. We're starting with melody A, and I'm going to go ahead and just put up the tab. So we're going to learn one bar at a time. And you can see we're learning one bar at a time because this tune is based out of 16th notes. So there's quite a few notes in each bar. So here's what the first bar sounds like, then we'll break it down and learn it. Okay, so let's go ahead and tackle that. Now, what makes this piece great for that upper intermediate to advanced player is that instead of doing just a single note hammer-on pull-off, for example, if I played like the open A string and I hammer on to the 3rd and then pull off, we've done that probably a ton of times in our playing career. So it's kind of cool to do a hammer-on and a pull-off using a double stop. Now, a double stop is just a fancy terminology that means we're playing 2 notes at once. And you can see our double stop for the very first hit is just a C chord. We're going to have, well, part of our C chord, right? When we think of the stock C, we're just going to take the middle strings, the 3rd and the 2nd string. And I want you to pluck the 3rd and the 2nd together. Now we're going to take our middle finger and our index finger and hammer on to a D minor. So you're going to hammer on with the middle on the 2nd fret of string 3, index goes to the 1st fret of string 2. Okay? When you do this hammer on, make sure you have that nice curve at that first joint in that both fingers. And then we do the opposite. We pull off back to the opens. Now the trick or the key with hammer-ons, remember, is that we want it to, there we go. We want it to have the same volume as if we were to go pluck, 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 right? But the key here is that we cut down the work of the right hand. Instead of going pluck, 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 I gotta do 3 times with my right hand. I only have to do once using hammer-on pull-off technique. Plus it gives it a cool sound, you know, it's like adding a different spice to a food dish, right? Sometimes if you add salt, it tastes one way, if you add pepper, it tastes one way, if you add paprika, it tastes one way. That's the same thing we get here. So hit pause. If you've never done this double hammer-on pull-off before, just take your time and listen out. Make sure that each note rings out at the same volume and that you're keeping it steady, because if you look at the rhythm for the first half of this bar, you can see it's all 16th notes. So we don't want to rush anything. We want to have a nice even tempo between all these notes. Or a better way of saying, we want each note to last the same duration of value. Okay, so when you're good with that, let's look at the next note, which is just the open G. And this is probably what I would loop. I would just loop this first beat. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, so you can just loop that first beat, those 4 notes in that first beat, 1E and just get comfortable with that. And when you're good with that, look at beat 2. We're going to start with that D minor, do a pull off, back to the open G, and then pluck the double stop of the C chord. So that's what it sounds like if I loop just beat 2. So that's another thing you can do. You can loop beat 1 by itself, beat 2 by itself. But then you want to put it together because it starts to sound like actual music, right? Okay, so let's see if we can try that, but a little bit slower. So I'll start off, you come in with me. Okay, so not too bad. Remember, if that's too fast, you can use the little YouTube cog to slow it down. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. When we look at beat 3 and beat 4 in this bar, we can see that we have a little bit of syncopation happening in beat 3. So you're not playing on beat 3 itself, rather you're tying that C double stop that we just finished with into that beat, and then you start on the E of beat 3. Now, I think it's easier to just play this by ear. So let me go ahead and do that for you. I'm going to play from the E of beat 3 into beat 4 just to finish this bar. So we can hear right away, right, with my beautiful singing voice. We can hear what we're doing because it's pretty catchy. If you can sing it, you can play it. So we're going to start with the ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. You can see that we're literally just playing out of the stock C major chord. So we're going to play that note, then lift up, do a hammer-on pull-off, then go to string 2, play the 3rd fret, open A. While all along, I've kept my ring finger stuck on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, because I'm going to go back to it, play it again, and then do a pull off. So watch my ring finger. You can see it stays anchored when I get to string 2. So that's how you want to approach it. Use that little trick. Keep it anchored on the 2nd string. But again, if we just loop it like that, we can practice. It's a really great way to practice this. Beat 3 into 4. So I added a little slap at the start so we can kind of feel the beginning of that. But keep in mind, that's not actually in the music when you play it, right? So here's what everything sounds like for this entire first measure. So again, if you can sing it, you can play it. So let's see if we can try it together. I'm gonna play once so we can feel that beat. Would you come in? Okay. Now we'll go ahead and say with this tune, we should aim to try to keep our timing nice and steady when we get to performance level readiness, right? AKA like when we play the entire song. But I would say that you don't really have to be like super glued to the metronome with this tune, right? You don't have to be like a robot, because that's what it sounds like sometimes when you play super glued to the metronome, right? Right? It's just feels really rigid and it doesn't flow. It doesn't have that human element to it, you know. So when you get it to performance level readiness, don't feel like you have to be so precise with timing. You know, you can sway a little bit here and there. Of course, you don't want to go right where there's no concept of timing at all, right? But don't beat yourself up too much. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at measure 2. And with measure 2, we can already, right off the bat, we can see beat 1 and beat 2 are identical to measure 1. That's going to happen throughout these next couple bars as well. So you already know how to play the first half. So that first half again. Okay, so let's look at the second half. We can see that again we're starting on the E of beat 3, but this time around we're doing a slide lick. So it sounds like this. So I played a few times so you can kind of get that stuck in your head. Remember, if you can sing it, you can play it. Don't be afraid to sing it out loud. Right? So if you can sing it, it helps you really get the melody ingrained in the membrane. So we're going to go ahead and start with the ring finger on the 5th fret of string 1. And I want you to play that note, and then you're going to pluck it again, but slide up to 7. Then quickly slide back to 5. Then you're going to pull off to the 3rd fret with your index finger. So here's the trick. You pluck twice, once, twice, and then you've got those techniques right after, right? So we've got pluck, slide, back, pull off. So just take a second, get comfortable with that. Now keep in mind that the slide is fast. Right, get that stuck in your head. Make it sound just like that. To finish up, you're going to the 2nd string, 5, 3, pull off. So we're plucking twice, 5, 3, pull off. So there's a few times for you to practice on a loop with that. And since we know the first half, let's tie it together so we can hear the whole measure in the context. Okay, so let's try that, but on a loop. So you come in on the 2nd time. Now, I'm actually using a little bit of that piccato picking. So let's break that down. If we think back to the first half, I'm sticking with that 3-finger approach that I talked about in the intro. But when I get to these licks, I'm actually using the piccato picking. So watch my two fingers on the right hand, my middle and my index. My middle will always lead in being the first one to be plucked, right, or picked. So I've got middle index, right? Because I only have 2 plucks on the first string, 2 plucks on the second string. Middle index, middle index. Okay, so that's picado, my approach for the picado picking. If you want to dive into picado picking in greater detail and much more explanation, then I would recommend checking out this tune, which is called La Gitanita. I'll put the link in the description box below, but it's a flamenco tune that's really fun to play, and it teaches the picado picking, but it also teaches rasgueado technique, which is this barrel roll strum, which gives it a big, bright sound. And we're actually going to use that strum when we get to the B melody. So if you want to learn both those techniques, check out that lesson. So that's bar 2 in a nutshell, guys. So now we know measure 1 and measure 2. So if we look at measure 3, what do you recognize? It's identical to measure 1, so let's skip over that. Look at measure 4. Same thing, we've got the same first half. But the second half is different. The second half is just a double stop walk up the harmonized C major scale. So we're literally just going D minor, E minor to F. Okay, so we know the D minor, right? 2 and 1. Move that shape up a whole step. You get to 4 and 3. Move that up a half step, but put your ring underneath. You got double 5. So that's it. So just take a second. You can add the opens. Open, D minor, E minor, F, and then walk backwards. Just get comfortable with those double stops up and down the neck. That helps build muscle memory. And then the thing we really need to focus in on is the rhythm, because it's syncopated here. So if we look at just beat 3 and 4, actually let's look at beat 3 by itself. We can see that our first hit is on the E and our next hit is on the A. So it's the syncopated, those up beats of this 16th notes. So tricky. If we look at beat 4, we can see that that F is on the E. So we have literally E, A, E. Now, what does that actually sound like in time? Sounds like that. Let's count it out. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. Let me try again, see if I can do a little bit better. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. That's a little bit better. So it's tricky. What you may want to do is hit pause and just put a metronome on, or if you have good timing already, you can just tap your foot along and just clap the rhythms and count them out. So for example, instead of clapping, because it kind of makes the mic pop, I'm just going to tap on my chest the hits. So I'm going to tap literally 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. Okay, so that's what you want to do. Of course, clap it. You know, it's kind of weird if you just sit there. Reminds me of the that movie, which is not a G-rated movie like Rock Class 101 is. But if you catch the reference, you'll get a kick out of it. But the other approach too is to just get it memorized. Remember, this is a very catchy. Right, if you can sing that and really just feel it, you can play it by ear. So let's see if we can do that. Let's put it on a loop and see if we can just kind of feel it and play it by ear. And instead, let's try the other approach where we count it. So we have 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E, 1 E So I think the second time through, I was a little loose on the timing because it's hard. It's hard to count that. So I think a lot of folks are probably going to play this one by ear and by feel. So that is the big chunk. That's like a big meat and potatoes of the A melody. If I play those 4 bars that we've got down, or we've learned so far, it sounds like this. Okay, remember, don't beat yourself up trying to play perfectly in time, right? Just feel the music and let it flow. Now, as we go into measure 5, we have a little change in the feel of the music. We have this cool little walk down sequence that's happening, and it's super easy to play. So our first chord is going to be a G add 9. So the easy way to remember this is to think about where you left off. We literally walked up to double 5 for that F. We'll just move that shape up to the 7th fret, so up a whole step. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with a strum, just a regular down strum. You can do any variation of a down strum. If you want to use the nail of the index, the flesh of the thumb has a bit of softer, a warmer sound. Or if you want to do like a barrel roll strum, which I taught in that flamenco lesson, you can do that too, just to give it more of a pop. So any kind of down strum works. It's whatever you feel like using. So I'm going to go down, then I'm going to go 3, 2, 4, 1, 3. So I have strum 3, 2, 4, 1, 3. But when we add the rhythm, it sounds like that. Strum 3, 2, 4, 1, 3. So down, endo to E end. Strum, endo to E end. Strum 3, 2, 4, 1, 3. Okay? You can even add a little bit of vibrato as well if you want to. It just sweetens the sound ever so much. If you're new to vibrato, I'll link our lesson on that below. It's got, I think it's 5 exercises, so you can work on vibrato technique, as well as teaches you how to do it. So that's what that first half sounds like, very simple. Now move back to the F, and when we add these open strings, we end up with an F add 9 chord. But we're gonna do the same thing, strum 3, 2, 4, 1, 3. Okay, so this entire bar by itself sounds like that. Very, very simple because it's the same rhythm copy and pasted for the G and then the F chord. So strum 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, strum 3, 2, 4, 1, 3. Okay, so let's do this. Let's put it on a loop and I'll play once. You come in and try it with me a few times. So that's a little bit fast, but I think we could push ourselves since that one is pretty simple for our left and our right hand. Now, as we go into our next measure, this is going to be the last measure for melody A. And again, we're going to notice the first half we already know how to play. So if we look at the second half, it's very, very simple. We're going to start with the ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. Then go to the 1st fret, give me a pull off to the open. Then do the same thing on string 2, 3rd, and then 1st fret, pull off to the open. So 2 plucks for each string. You can use that piccato technique if you like that. So when I add it in the context of the entire bar, it sounds like this. So the key thing again is to look at where it starts. It starts on the E of beat 3. Little rush. So there's on a repeat, and you can hear I'm not a perfect player either. Again, don't beat yourself up with this stuff. But that's everything for our A melody. If I play through the entire 6 bars, we end up with pretty cool stuff, right? Now, as we go into melody B, we have a different, we have a change in the color of the music, right? It's just, we get a different, a lot of songs are A-B-A format, right? Where A has its own sound and feel, and then B is like a complement to it. And that's what we've got here. So here's what our first bar for melody B. This is measure 7. And we'll put up the tab so we can take a look at it as well. But here's what it sounds like. It's actually really simple to play. It plays out of the F to the E7. So 2 stock chords we learn on like week 1 of playing ukulele. And that's what it sounds like. But very simple. Ba da 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 ba da. Right? So if you can sing it, you can play it. So start with the stock F. We can do any kind of down again. So if you want to use the thumb, the index, if I don't miss, a little raschiato strum, anything works for the down strum. But give me a down strum of F, then we're going to play 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. So we have strum 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. And that's our rhythm. Rhythmically though, if we count it, 1 and da, E and da, 1 and da, E and da. You can also think of it as strum and da, E and da. Okay? So let's put that on a loop and let's see if we can try it together. So not too bad. Switch to the E7. We're going to play the single note for the first hit. But we're doing the exact same rhythm. 3 and da, E and da. So we're going to go string 4 by itself, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And the rest of it is the same right hand pattern. Okay? So let's put E7 on a loop. And the entire bar on a loop. So not too hard. This B melody is a lot easier to play, I would say, than the A. Going into measure number 8, we're going A minor. So a variation on our stock A minor, we're going to add our ring finger to the 3rd fret of string 1. And I'm going to use my index finger for the top. And then we're going to a D. But we're not even going to use the 4th string, so we're not doing the full D shape. We're just going to go from the 3rd string down. So for that A minor, I'm using my index finger because I want to just drop straight down and have 2-2 open A for the D chord. Okay? So just take a second, practice A minor to D using these fingers. And when you feel comfortable with that, it's going to sound like this. One more time. Okay, so here's what's happening. We're going to hit string 4 by itself, add the ring finger to give it that variation of the A minor. Give me a down strum, and then we're going to literally just play single notes on the A string. So 4, strum, then we have 4, strum, 3, 3, 2. So you can see at the very end, I switched to my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string. 4, strum, 3, 3, 2. So not too hard. Now I'm going to use that little raschiato strum. I think it sounds cool for this. Right, because this part in the B melody sounds kind of like I really want to accent and highlight it. All right. Now, this is going to get held for a little bit because you can see that the D chord starts on B3. Okay, so 1 and a 2 E, 3 and a E and. So So that's what it sounds like rhythmically, playing the entire bar. 1 and a 2 E, 3 and a E and... Of course I didn't play it right that time. 1 and a 2 E, 3 and a... Oh my gosh, I didn't play it right 2 times in a row. Third time's a charm, right? There we go. 1 and a 2 E, 3 and a E and... Okay, so take that D chord, give me a strum, 3 by itself, take your ring finger, add it to the 3rd fret, 2nd string, play that note, lift up, 2nd string, back to 3rd. So strum, calling out the hits, strum, 3, 2, 2, 3, calling out the frets, strum, 2, 3, 2, 2. All right, so that one's not too hard. Now, I will say this. I've talked quite a bit about not worrying so much about being so rigid on timing. I guarantee you, if you tap your foot along in the performance, I probably rushed this part going into the D chord instead of holding it for its entire length. Because if I hold it for its entire length, listen. 1 and a 2 E and a 3 and a E and... It kind of lingers and gets held out. Right, kind of just loses a little bit of momentum, right? And that's where we start to talk about things like rubato, where we don't have to be so rigidly, glued to the metronome in our playing. So if you're new to what rubato is, I'm going to link a lesson below that Matt Dahlberg taught, which is a great explanation and great introduction to how to use it and how to use it in a natural way. So your playing doesn't sound like you're out of time, but it has that human element and human flow to it. But we're going to try and keep timing steady for right now. So let's do this. Let's see if we can play that entire bar. And we'll go slow. 1 and a 2 E and a 3 and a E and 1 and a 2 E and a 3 and a E and 1 and a 2 E and a 3 and a E and 1 and a 2 E and a 3 and a E and... So there's on a loop a few times for you to practice to. If I get rid of counting, that's what it sounds like. So just kind of get that stuck in your head. And again, don't want to be like a broken record, but when you're playing it at performance, if you want to cut quickly to the D chord, it's fine, right? So again, it's not a super big thing to be super precise with timing. But let's backtrack. I'm going to play 7 into 8 so we can hear what these 2 bars sound like together. Okay, pretty cool stuff. Going into measure 9, we have D minor to G7. So we've got our stock D minor to G7. Easy change because index is constant throughout both chords. So this bar sounds like... a bit tricky. Let's break this one down. Start with the D minor, give me a strum, 3rd string, add your pinky to the 3rd fret of string 2, then hit the open A, and then back to string 3. So watch my pinky. Stays anchored and put, so I have more sustain, right? I want that note to ring out. Rhythmically, 1 and a E and, so strum, 3, 2, 1, 3. Let's try that on a loop. Strum, 3, 2, 1, 3, strum, 3, 2, 1, 3. Okay, go to G7. Now we're going to start the same. Strum, 3, 1. This time around, you're going to add the pinky to that 3rd fret of the 1st string. So starting again on the strum, 3, 1 with the pinky, 3rd fret. Then here's where it's a little tricky. Get rid of the chord, move the pinky up to 5. Same string, play that, and then use your middle finger to grab the 3rd fret of string 2. Okay? So strum 3, 1 with the pinky, move it up to 5, middle finger, 3rd fret, string 2. Now, we're using our middle finger because the next bar will take us to a G, and we're going to do it as a partial bar instead of the regular fingering. So keep that thought in mind for right now. But the G7 by itself, strum 3, 1, 5, 3. Rhythmically, it's the same, 3 and E and as the first half of this bar. So if we try that on a loop. Now, I don't expect you to play that with me on a loop right off the get-go. Try to come in on one of them. But if I backtrack this entire measure, sounds like that. So this one I think is probably the hardest in the B melody. So take your time on that one, hit pause if you need to, but let's go ahead and look at where we move to. And we already know that we left off with pinky and middle finger. We can actually get rid of pinky for right now. Keep the middle finger on that 3rd fret, string 2, lay your index finger flat from the 3rd string down, and that gives us a partial bar to make the G chord. So we're going to do the same rhythm where we go strum, oops, there we go. So we have strum and E and, but we're doing a little bit more work with our left hand right here. So start with the regular strum, play string 3, take this middle finger, bar it down so it's a partial bar, so bending at that first joint, play the 3rd fret on the 1st string. Then with your pinky, go to the 5th fret and back to string 2, 3rd fret. So I have strum 3, 1, 5, 3. So strum 3, pivot down, 3rd on string 1, pinky 5, back to string 2. This entire time, that partial bar of the middle stays there. Strum 3, 1, 5, 3. So hit pause, practice that. It's a little bit tricky. So again, strum 3, 1, 5, 3. Okay, going up to the next chord. And our next chord is an F add 9. So we've already seen one, but this is a variation on that chord. So go ahead and lay your first finger flat on the 8th fret, string 1 and 2. Add your middle finger to 9 on string 3. And our G string will be open. So it's probably a shape we've played quite a few times. So we're going to go ahead and go strum 3, 1, 2, 3. And this one's easy because we're playing straight out of the chord. Okay, so let's try that on a loop. So very, very simple. So the bulk of your practice is on the G. Okay, so strum 3, 1, 5, 3, strum. Hard to call out all these things. Strum 3, 1, 5, 3, strum 3, 1, 2, 3. Now I will say this, if you're playing super fast, it's okay to not really hit the last note right there because you've got a crazy big jump going up. Let's actually talk about that jump. Watch my index finger. You can see as I go up, it stays flat, right? But it's going to pivot down to strings 1 and 2, whereas my middle finger moves up to the 3rd string. So that's the trick with the transition. So you may want to just practice those two chords and do that movement. Index drops down, middle comes up. listen to the last note I cut out. So that's something you can do if you're playing super fast. Don't worry too much about trying to hit every single note. Okay, so that's that 10th bar. Now here's what happens next. If we look at the 11th bar, it's the same as what we did for the F chord, right? But we move the shape up a whole step, gives us a G. So we're on 11th fret with our middle finger, flat on 10, strings 1 and 2. Of course, the G string is open. Strum 3, 1, 2, 3. So here's the kicker. Look at the time signature. It's 2, 4. So we are literally just playing 2 beats in this measure, and that's going to wrap up the B melody. So what I would actually suggest practicing is going from the F to the G, just playing everything. Just practicing those 2 chord transitions. And that's everything for our B melody. So if I play through everything, I end up with this. So that's a pretty good gist of what it sounds like when you get it all down. And again, don't worry too much about timing. Just, play it to feel. And have a little bit of fun with it. Now, after this, you're going back to the A melody, but it's kind of an abridged version. So we're playing a shortened A melody. Bar 12, 13, and 14. That is identical to 1, 2, and 3. So the only measure we need to learn is this one, 15. Of course, we know the first half. So we literally have 2 hits to learn, which is the open G and then strumming the basic C. So, sounds like that. So again, the syncopation is a little tricky because you have a hit on the E for beat 3 and then a strum on the A. And that ties into beat 4 and sustains for, well, as long as the uke rings out. But again, it's really catchy. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-ba. Right? So very catchy little ending. So let's try that together. So we have ready, go. One more time. Ready, go. Of course, you see a little RIT, so retardando. So when you are playing it at the performance level, you just want to do a little bit of gradual slow down, just to give it a nice ending. So let's go ahead and do this. Let me play through this entire 4 bars so we can hear the ending in melody A. It sounds like this. So that gives us a good gist of our little ending outro. And that's everything for this tune, guys. So there wasn't a ton of music to learn, but at the same time, it's a really great practice for hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides as well, plus building speed, because eventually you want your goal to be kind of like around that tempo. So you want it to be a brisk, fast tempo. So start slow. Remember, start nice and slow, get everything nice and clean before trying to add speed. And remember, you don't have to be glued to the metronome. It doesn't have to be like perfectly in time where we're doing everything glued to the metronome. Have a little fun with it, play it to taste, put a little bit of human feel and element into it, and just have fun with it. So guys, I hope you had a great time learning this with me. This was a really fun one for me to write. I don't know why I sat on it for so long, but I, I definitely did. But I do want to give you a friendly reminder, if you want to get the tabs to print off Keep For Your Records, that was available at this link right here. Or you can go to the site, rockclass101.com, do a search for Fingerpicking Etude number 30. You can literally just type 30 and it should pull up that way too. And don't forget too, on that page was the really cool interactive on-screen tab here. So if you want to highlight a bar or half a bar, you want to loop it, you want to slow it down, you want a great tool for practicing too. Just like we did in this lesson, then the tab player, the interactive tab player, is perfect for doing just that. So again, guys, I hope you enjoy this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.